So first of all, we started online classes straight away, as all the schools did. I think we were, everyone was a little bit shocked and panicked about how we were going to do these online classes, all the schools. Luckily, we've got an amazing team of teachers at Delfin, and the students responded really well to the lessons. They got used to them. And now that we are actually reopening, some of the students, they want to stay online, which is very surprising, because you think, it's all about the experience coming to the UK, meeting people. But for some of them, it was enough just to be online. So that was really interesting. So we've actually kept our online provision, and now we're open for face-to-face classes. Another thing we did, we had to postpone a lot of courses, and students were generally quite happy with that. They understood that we physically couldn't be open, so they would come back and study when we opened. And obviously, lots and lots of preparation to make sure we were COVID ready. Lots of signage, preparation in classrooms, information for staff and for students, and that took actually a really long time. But now we're ready.
At the beginning, while it was the third term in early 2020, we supported a lot parents, because at the beginning everyone was scared about financial issues, so many schools asked for immediate money and things. This wasn't our approach at all. We had a completely different approach. And we stated and we put in place a sort of hardship fund. So we offered to our parents a 25% discount over the tuition fee for our day schools in case they were suffering. And we created a sort of fund for families who needed a financial support. And as an outcome, we had a lot of families that paid in full, because they appreciated a lot the kind of message we were sent. And all the money we got out of 25%, also with another discount from our perspective, we contributed to help a lot of families. So this was the first way to put in place a sort of a real strong engagement with our parents, which are the best friend we have.
Well, basically, we continued to operate as normal as possible. So we still offered basically rooms in our properties. We still offered our welcoming service, although it was remotely. And what I mean by welcoming service is that we would still be a point of contact for the client by email or by phone, although we couldn't meet them in person during the first part of the lockdown. And currently now, again, as we've started the second part, but we still offered our services by phone and by email. So we were still in constant contact with the clients about their booking, their arrival, if they had any queries when they came here, and also any queries to do with COVID-19. We were able to be in touch with them. So we continued to welcome them as normal. Unfortunately, we weren't able to meet them in person unless it was absolutely necessary. But we always put ourselves forward to be a point of contact. We have a 24-hour emergency phone that was offered to the number for that was offered to the clients at all times. So if they ever wanted to contact us by phone or by WhatsApp, we were available to welcome them like that. And all of the information about their arrival was shared several times before their arrival to make sure everything was okay.
Well, I think when you're faced with something like COVID-19, it's great now 5 months on to reflect on things. It was obviously quite a shock. And our first and foremost concern was, of course, for our students and for our employees. So to begin with, we'd seen it coming perhaps earlier than others, because we have so many groups that tend to come from Italy in the February, March time. So it was obvious that this was going to be something very serious. And our concern was repatriating a lot of our students because they wanted to go home. So that was our first concern. Secondly, obviously, we took measures inside the college for those that were remaining for those last few weeks and then in lockdown to make sure that everyone was safe and secure. And now having reopened, which is great for us, of course, we're kind of doing it a little bit in reverse. So the focus on reopening was, how do we get students to come back to the country and how will they feel safe? And I think more than ever on a global scale, we've seen how different people have different priorities. Clearly, for some countries, it's quite normal to wear a face mask, and others, it's been quite a new thing. For example, from Europe, whereas coming from Asia, for many years, people have worn face masks. So we made that mandatory. We also made sure that we were sanitizing everyone's hands, that we gave a proper induction to all of our team. So we put lots of measures that are very safety based. But I think one really important point to make, both before going into lockdown and again now, is we want to make sure that the environment and the reason why people come, which is to learn English, to have an experience abroad, is not sanitized to the point where you can't enjoy yourself anymore. It's so important. People want to get on with their lives. They want to study. They want to have fun. And I think we've tried to really strike a balance between all what you might call the hygiene factors, what we have to do, and the bits that make the special environment that we have.
First of all, we respect the measures of the German government, and we try to organize language courses, for example, in very, very small groups. We organize internship programs in very small companies, so we had the possibility to track contacts, for example. Then we reduced the capacity of a student house, and we have several rooms for students in case of COVID. So we have quarantine rooms for them. And we obviously give them a special support in the special times. So we have emergency numbers, we have a couple of doctors in case of illness or something, and we expand also our support, so parents can always contact us if it's necessary.
Well, that was quite a large project. From back in March, April, when we did have to shut down and we went online, we started working out what would we need to do in order to be ready to welcome students, because we didn't know at what stage we would be. So we went about drawing up a reopening protocol along with MEI and Select Ireland, and we devised our own health and safety. We brought in specialist company to basically audit us and go through the protocols and reopening procedures. We then invested obviously in sanitizing equipment. We invested in an electrostatic disinfectant sprayer, which we use. You may have seen them on the news on television when they're spraying aeroplanes and things. So the system that we put in place here for the school was to ensure that we had a building that both students and staff felt safe in when they were able to come back here. And I'm happy to say that when we did open on September 7th, the initial worry and tension that some students and staff had, it was amazing. It was within a couple of hours, both staff and students were coming back saying how safe they felt. We've upped our cleaning, our sanitizing. We reduced the number of students in the classrooms, obviously maintaining social distancing. And over the period while the school was closed and we had launched our online platform back in March, we decided to digitize our entire syllabus. So all of our material and everything is all digital, and the classes are all they're all potentially online and physical at the same time. So we've also set up quarantine situation for accommodation. So any students that come over, they can go into accommodation for 2 weeks where they have self-restriction under the guidelines here in Ireland at the moment. And we have a hybrid version of our classes running. So for the first 2 weeks while the student is in the accommodation, in fact, they follow the classes through Zoom. And the classrooms have the technology set up with webcams and multi-directional microphones. So yeah, it's been exciting and new for all of us here. And to be honest, it's worked exceptionally well. We've had students arriving in every week since we've opened. all of them have had to do the quarantine for 2 weeks, and yeah, they're delighted to come over.
University, I think that the advantage we have is that the procedures we put in place have to be 100% compliant, and perhaps we could do a little bit more to make sure that everything is safe for the students and for the staff members. But we have, for example, signs everywhere around the campus to give people directions and to help them remember the rules of health and safety. We also have all our desks as positioned 1 meter apart from each other. The teachers as well, they have to stay at least 1 meter apart from the students during classes. However, we are not having the face-to-face classes at the moment. We are doing online, and in the near future, when it's safe to do so, we'll go back to the face-to-face lessons on the campus. The restaurants at the campus are only takeaway at the moment, so they're not open for students to walk in and grab the food and sit down. They have to buy the food and leave the premises and leave the cafe or restaurant. So that's another measure we have in place. Wearing masks all around the campus is another thing we require, including masks inside the classrooms as well during the class when we have the face-to-face classes back. Public transport in Dublin requires the use of the mask as well, and wipes and sanitizers are all around the classrooms and the premises in the campus, so students always have the wipes available for them to clean the desks, sanitizers for hands, and we don't have more than 13 students in the classroom, and our classrooms are fairly big, so we still have enough space to respect the rule of 1 meter apart from each other in the classrooms. So that's also another measure we have in place. And yeah, generally speaking, we decided not to go back to the face-to-face classes just yet. But when we are ready to welcome the students back at the campus, all these measures that I mentioned will be in place.